Good morning. Welcome to the training webinar for this week. I'm Dale Franks. I just want to point out for those of you who might be more observant, this is not the shirt that I wore Tuesday. It is by the same designer. It is the same color, but the style is slightly different, although you'd have to make a close comparison to tell. But I'm not recycling clothes throughout the week because on a day-to-day basis, I don't wear outside clothes. That's not true at all. Welcome to the webinar. Today, we're going to talk about some advanced form stuff. Advanced forms is the title I give this, which is very misleading because it's never the same webinar twice. I always do different things. I switch things up. I talk about things that I think today we're talking about some stuff I haven't talked about in a long while. So whenever you see advanced forms, it's kind of a grab bag of things that I think might be interesting at the moment, stuff that maybe we haven't talked about in a long while. So we are going to talk about forms today. I'm just going to go ahead and share this. I have a whole bunch of stuff that is pre-done. We're probably not going to look at all of it because I have all of the previous like 5 webinars of various things that I've done on this topic kind of consolidated into one main folder. And we're going to look at some of the stuff, but not all of it. Today, I want to get through 3 things definitely. And then if we have some time after, there's some other stuff that I'll cover. This is the form that we're going to use for right now. It is not much of a form. It has 5 input controls. They are actually called input 1 through 5. We're not really concerned about the form itself or its design yet. We'll be very concerned about that later on today. But for now, all we care about is the form data and having some data. So here's our problem, and it's a fairly common problem. I have a form. People have made instances of the form. They've submitted it over and over. This is a brand new form, by the way, so it has no instances. So I think I'm going to have to create a couple of instances here in a little bit to get everything kicked off. But I have a form. I have form instances, and I have data from those form instances. Now, normally, if I want to look at forms and look at their form data, I'm just going to create a knowledge view, right? It's just going to take my form instances. It's going to display them for me. I can see the form instances in the knowledge view. If there are any form instances, I can click on their name in the knowledge view. It'll open the form instance for me directly. And that's great if all I really care about is taking a look at the form instance itself and popping it open for whatever reason out of a knowledge view. It gets a little more complex, however, whenever I want to take the data that is in a form instance, and then I want to use that data somewhere else. I might want to extract data from one form instance to place it into a different form instance. So I'm going to need to query it. Now, I could do that with a knowledge view. In fact, if we look at a business value, and let me just create one for an example here. I'm probably going to have to create one anyway here in a little bit. So let's just create a business value. And we'll just call this webinar for right now. If I have to change the name, I will. We'll call this webinar. And one of my choices, and there are 2 choices that are relevant to me if I am querying a form and trying to get form data back, is I can create a knowledge view, and I can use the knowledge view as a data source for a business value. I can also use a form instance or the form instances of a specified form definition as the data source for a business value as well. So I do have 2 ways of grabbing that data if I need it. And of course, this doesn't require that I know SQL or that I have any sort of development experience. I can kind of do it through the UI. And that is great, but there is a disadvantage to it, which is performance. Because my performance is going to be decreased slightly, or perhaps even greatly, depending on how many records I'm returning, when I start querying knowledge views and even form instances. Form instances are better in some ways, but a form instance really kind of is very knowledge viewy in terms of how much resources it takes. Which reminds me, I've done an entire webinar on this. Because what we're talking about are performance problems of trying to get stuff from inside Process Director. And I say performance problems, it's not usually a performance problem. There are just performance differences, the amount of time that you're going to have to wait to get data back. And knowledge views are slow. Form instances can also be kind of slow. And by slow, I'm talking about, let's say I click a button and I'm going to call one of these knowledge views. There may be a noticeable delay. It may be a second or two. It may be 5 seconds. If I'm going through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of records, it may be, 10 seconds. We don't actually know. And so let me point you to a webinar that I've done that discusses these performance differences, and I have to find it. So let me go into YouTube, and we will go into, I should probably have done this through the front end rather than the back end, but all of my videos will be here, so it'll be easier to do it this way. Performance. Yeah, actually, I have two of them. The most recent was done on July 27th, 2023, business value performance. And what I did in this one was we took a look at testing performance, and we did a couple of different things. We ran through how business values work and what the difference was in their performance. And the other one that I did, which is also in the playlist, was in 2022, and I looked at non-web service business values. And this is probably the more important of the two, because in this one, I actually went through knowledge views and form instances and cached stuff and a whole bunch of different ways of pulling a 1,000 row data set. And we actually timed the performance time that it took to do all of this. So if you want more information about that, please refer to those two webinars, especially this one, which was, when did I do it? I did it in 2022. Well, now I've lost it. But I just want to refer you to that. June 30th, 2022, is this one. And then I just did some various ways of doing things in SQL, in 2023. So, that's about 4 hours of performance testing various ways of grabbing data. So if you have, 4 hours to spare watching me doing performance testing on different types of ways of grabbing data in Process Director, please feel free to look at one of those two videos. But as we discussed in those two webinars, as long ago as they were, different methods of grabbing data are going to take different amounts of time. So you may not want to grab form instances. You may not want to grab knowledge views, because the fastest way to grab stuff is by using SQL. And by the way, there is a series of webinars on using SQL commands where I teach you how to use SQL. So if you don't know how to use SQL, please refer to those. Most of what you need to know is in the first one, because it's the first one is where I discussed the select command and how it works. So with that one, you can pretty much, I think, make most business values that you need to make just to grab data out of the database. And it is the fastest way of doing it. Now, the problem is, of course, that even though this data does exist in Process Director, you don't know how to get it because it is dispersed out among many different places, right? So if I have a form instance, I've got a database table that stores my form instance, and then I've got a database table that stores the actual data, and then I've got a link to the form definition. So that's another table where I've got a link. So I've got to pull all these different tables together, trying to do it through raw SQL. While doable, the database is documented in the product documentation. If you are a database pro, you can figure it out. But you don't have to, because we have a couple of different ways of getting this data to work that is going to speed up our operation of pulling data back from a form so that we can use it in a business value. And once it's in a business value, we can insert that data in other forms. We can do various types of manipulation and querying on that data. We can pass parameters. It makes our life a lot easier if we can grab that data out of a business value. If you're not comfortable with SQL, there is a way to speed up things quite a lot using a knowledge view, but it requires that we cache the form's data. So we're going to start off with form data caching. To set up form data caching, all you need to do, well, it's not all you need to do, but the first thing that you need to do is you need to go into the Properties tab for your form, and you need to enable the form data cache. And once you turn that on, your form data is going to be cached. Now, there are some caveats to doing this. Just by clicking this button and hitting OK, we haven't really done anything yet. And why is my little green, is my screen the wrong size? Sorry. Yes, sorry, I must have made my screen a little smaller. There we go. So doing what I've just done, clicking that button is great and everything. We now say, oh, I want my form cached. That doesn't actually build the form cache for us. We need to build the form cache ourselves. So what we need to do is we need to run the buildformcache.aspx page. So I'm going to open up a new tab here, and I'm going to drag it down here so that we can see it. This is awfully big, so let me just change the size of this browser window. There we go. And what we're going to do is we are going to just call the buildformcache.aspx page on training.bplogix.net. Even though I've checked the box on the form, a cache does not exist for that form. It will exist eventually, because probably sometime overnight, the build form cache is going to run. I'm trying to remember how we do it on cloud systems. And sorry, I just can't remember. I think we do a nightly deal where we build the form cache, but I'm not sure. Don't take that as gospel. But there is this page, build form cache. It doesn't do anything other than build the form cache for you. And once I run it, because there is no cache, it doesn't exist. But once I run it, it is going to build the form cache. You can see my little spinny is running up here. And sooner or later, it will give me my, I think it'll just show me, I forget what it shows me now. I think it shows me a little message that says form cache complete. And it does. There we go. bplogix build form cache data complete. So now, and only now, do I have a cache. Second drawback, I got to keep running that form cache page to refresh my cache. Because right now, I don't have any instances of this form. It's built a cache for me, and we'll take a look at the cache tables in just a second. but it's built a cache for me, but I don't have any form instances. And since I don't have any form instances, that cache is not going to return anything. And I could go in and I could create 10 form instances right now. And I think sadly, you're going to have to watch me create some form instances to make this work. But I can create form instances. It's not, my cache is not going to update. My cache is not going to update until the build form cache page is ran again. And it has to run on a routine basis because it's got to catch my form numbers. I did apparently, however, I was smart enough to autofill all of the stuff in this form so that all I had to do is start the form or run the form and submit it. And I can get several form instances without you having to watch me try to type gibberish into form fields. So I'm basically just using a sequence number to autofill some form fields. That should be enough for us for the moment. And if we look now on our webinar form, and we can see I've got all of these form instances, they're all filled out, and that's great. There's only one problem. They don't exist in the cache right yet. And let's see if we can demonstrate that. And we have to do that by creating a knowledge view, because the third piece is being able to grab the data out. And we'll do that in a knowledge view. So let me create a knowledge view real quick, and it should return nothing because when I ran my cache, I had no form instances. So we'll go to our knowledge view and we'll just type this cached form knowledge view. And I'm going to specify my webinar form as the form that I want to return. And we'll update that. And I need to go into the configure tab and I need to find a tiny little property. Thought it was on this tab, which just says return cache data. There it is. I found it. This knowledge view will only use cached form instance data. Normally, a knowledge view grabs the live data for a form right out of, table form instance, table form data, and all of that good stuff. And it pulls that data from, whatever's in process director. If I have a form cache and I say use cached form data, then this is only going to return records from that cached form. Now we have a little more configuration to do. We got to turn case instances and timeline instances and workflow off so that we only return form instances. Now we're going to go ahead and update. Well, I guess I could have just hit update and run. And it is returning all of my data. That's good. I'm not sure why it's returning my data because I expected it to be empty and to not have data. So I expected it to use an empty cache. And the reason I expected it to use an empty cache is because of the way the caching works. Now, it could just be that at some point on my system, the caching ran because I bumped off an activity check. I thought I would be able to get to it fast enough before that happened, but apparently I didn't. So I now have data running. And okay, that's fine. I have data running and it shows me my cached data. And it shows it to me. Well, it's only seven records or whatever, so it's going to show it to me pretty fast. But this is cached form data. This is data from whenever I cached it and when apparently when an activity check or a timer check was prompted and it just reran the cache for this form, and it may have rerun it if I saved the form. Not entirely sure what prompted that cache to run. Like I said, I expected it to be empty. It's not, but okay, fine. No big deal. The cache ran. The thing is, I don't know when the cache is running. I don't know how often it's going to run or what's going to prompt the cache to run. And the problem with the cache is it's only going to show me the data that existed, which is what I was trying to demonstrate to you when the cache was created. That's why I created the cache prior to creating instances, but apparently I've prompted a bump of that cache, and it's given me the initial form instances that were created, which, okay, is fine, and it will give me my data. But there is going to be, even though I didn't demonstrate it now, there is going to be some delay, because when I pull cached data, it's only going to pull the data that existed as of the last time the cache was built, which is why what we recommend you do, if we go into the documentation. Oh, I didn't want to do that. All right, well, at least kind of got me back to where I was. Let's open a new tab and go to the doc, and I'll just type in form cache to get to it real quick. Form data caching. And let's get rid of all this stupid highlighting. And right here is where we talk about implementing it. And what you really should be doing is running the build form cache page on a recurring basis. You can do it to build the entire form cache on a recurring basis. You can build the cache for a specific form. And we recommend, of course, that you use bputil to call the build form cache page. Don't call it directly. I mean, I could do it manually like I just did because I'm doing it manually. But if you just use the Windows Scheduler command to call this page, Windows Scheduler will call this page and will keep it open forever. And the next time you call it, everything is going to be all higgledy-piggledy. Windows Scheduler is awful for this. That's why we use bputil, the BP utility, because bputil will call this page and then release it. And then shut itself down. So if I'm calling it every 5 minutes, I don't have to worry that I have a previous cache running when I called the next cache and whatnot. So use bputil. Do not call this page directly from the Windows Scheduler utility. Call bputil from the Windows Scheduler utility and have bputil run this page via this su command. So this refreshes my cache. And I have to do this on a recurring basis because anytime that I'm grabbing data from the form, it's only going to show me the data that existed the last time my cache was constructed. And on a normal system, your cache is probably going to get constructed every 20 minutes-ish or so as the activity check runs. So if you need it, more current than that, then obviously you're gonna have to schedule a more frequent running of build form cache. Although, 20 minutes, I think 20 to 30 minutes is probably a pretty reasonable amount of time just to let the system do it. But again, it's something that you need to run more frequently if you need more current data. So that's the other piece. So I've got to set my form for caching. I've got to create my cache. Then I insert however many form instances I need to insert into the system. And then my cache runs again. Everything gets updated and I can pull that cache data back. It does run significantly faster, and I'll tell you why. Even if you're running a knowledge view just to run that cache, because whenever I cache that data, and let me open my content list again, since I messed that up. Let me go into my data sources. And let me just look at the internal DB data source that I have, and we'll look at the tables. And if we scroll down far enough, there are a whole bunch of tables that have names like this. Table FDC _ and then a GUID. These are all of the cached tables. Table FDC _ tells me that it is a form data cache table. That's what FDC means. So these are all of my cached tables inside this installation of Process Director. Now, this string of letters and numbers afterwards refers to the GUID of the form instance. So if we go back, or I'm sorry, the GUID of the form definition. So if we go back to our form and we open it up, and we can look down here at the very, very bottom of the screen, and we can look for the form ID, which ends in 1F0982. Okay, I'm going to try to remember this. Can I copy this? Yes, I can. So I'm going to copy the form ID, and I'm just going to paste it into a text document that I happen to have open, because that's where my notes are for today's webinar. And I do not want that to be a link. So I want to delete all of that link text and stuff. Sorry. It just automatically wants to make things a hyperlink, and I don't want it. All I really care about is that GUID. And the reason that I wanted that GUID is to see if we could go back into our internal DB data source, look at the tables, and go all the way down to table FDC. And let's see, form ID. Is there an 8550 in here? I'm trying to find 402A-8. Oh. Yeah. I can't find it. I'm trying to match the GUID that's on my form ID, which is this. Let me just paste it in there. Trying to match that with one of my table FDCs. Fine. I'm just going to give up. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. Oh, I thought for a second I had it. Oh, there it is, right there. This table right there. That is the table that stores only the field values from my webinar form. I was able to match the GUID here with the GUID that is shown right there. So I know that this is the data cache for that specific form, for the webinar form that we just created and submitted those instances for. So now I know where they're stored. Now, only data from that specific form, all of its form instances, is stored in this table. Normally, what happens in Process Director is all data from all forms are stored in a single table, and that table is called Table Form Data. And that table may have millions and millions of rows. There's also a lot more complexity to it in that not only does it have millions and millions of rows, but that means that it's related to every form in my system. So if you know anything about SQL and how joins between tables complicate a SQL structure, there are a lot of joins between tables when I go to table form data. That really slows down the return of data. So this data caching, by building my data cache table and enabling me to look in one specific place for the data for that form, does make a knowledge view data source run faster. It makes the knowledge view run faster. I'm sorry, I said a knowledge view data source run faster. It makes a knowledge view business value run faster because the knowledge view runs faster. In fact, it runs a lot faster, as we saw in those previous two webinars, which I referenced earlier. The nice thing about this is that you don't need to care about any of this backend stuff. You'll never need to look at this table. You'll never need to care that this table exists. The only thing you need to care about is on my form, have I specified that I want that form to be cached? Yes. Have I built my cache? Yes, apparently it got built even though I didn't want it to be. And in my knowledge view, am I telling it to find only my cached data? If those three things are true, I'm going to get data. The only drawback is the data is going to be a little older. And so as long as I can create my cache. And as long as I don't care that the data might be, half an hour old, maybe an hour old for all I know. I'm not entirely sure how often on your system the data cache gets recreated. It doesn't matter. It's going to be added to that cache every time the form cache page runs, which will update my data, and my data will be grabbable via a knowledge view. And that knowledge view, because it's looking specifically at that one little table that only contains the form data for one form definition, it doesn't have, a million records to chop through, right? It's got 7 or 8. That's going to run super fast. Grabbing 7 or 8 existing records from a table that has 7 or 8 records, vice grabbing 7 or 8 records from a table that has 3 million records, that's going to be a noticeable performance difference on the front end. I mean, the difference might only be a few seconds, but that's a few seconds of staring at a spinny for your end users that you want to relieve them of having to do. Now, this is good, and it gives us a big performance improvement over normal knowledge views when I want to pull back data from a business value. Because again, that's what we're talking about. If I'm going to be transferring data between forms, which is far more common than you would think starting out, then I really do need to have a business value that grabs that data for me that I can easily parameterize. And if I can use a knowledge view data source, and I can just pull that knowledge view data source, in this case, the cached form knowledge view, into my business value, and obviously I'll run it as me. And I so rarely use passwords myself. I'm so used to LastPass. That's not a good sign. Uh, Update. That one worked. Second time's the charm. Boy, LastPass makes you forget a lot of stuff. But now I've got a knowledge view that's going to return all of my fields in that knowledge view. I haven't configured this to actually return any form fields in this knowledge view because we didn't even go to the columns tab. But at this point, if I wanted to return those form fields, I now could, because I've got my cached form knowledge view. It is looking at the cached data. It's going to be significantly faster. Now, if you're more comfortable with doing this in SQL, we can make it faster. Let's go back to my webinar I updated it, so we're cool. But let me hit OK just to save it. Let's go back to my webinar form. Now, enabling the form data cache is fine. You can certainly do that. It's going to give you some performance improvement. It will enable you to use a knowledge view to grab the data because it's in Process Director. It's easily accessible. You don't need to know SQL. You don't need to know all of that stuff, and you can get some good performance improvements by pulling it out of a normal knowledge view. All great, but we can do better. If you're comfortable with SQL, every form has a form data SQL view tab. So I can actually create a SQL view from the form itself. Now, what we're doing is we are creating a database object inside the Process Director database. Actually, I think it's inside the Process Director internal user database. In either case, it's going to create this object for us. Now, this view is basically just a compiled database query that we build inside SQL Server for you just to return instances of this form. First of all, it's very flexible to create a SQL view. Second of all, you get a lot of performance increase out of it because now I'm just pulling it from a compiled view that's already in the database. And The downside of it is I got to know a little SQL to pull this data back. Let's talk about the flexibility. As you can see here at the very top, it automatically checks all 5 of the fields. I only have 5 fields on this form, inputs 1 through 5, but it shows me all of the fields that I have on this form. If I had a much more complex form, there would be a lot of stuff in the fields to use in SQL View tab, but maybe only a couple of these fields are important for my particular knowledge view. So I don't have to use every field in my view that I'm going to create in the database. Now remember, this view is just going to grab all of the instances of this form, but it's not going to have to go through the knowledge view interface. The knowledge view interface, one of the reasons why it's slower than other interfaces is because at its base, it is still SQL. However, it's got to build that SQL on the fly. The point of a knowledge view is that you are building a query on the fly, which means that ultimately that SQL gets built on the fly. Also, you've got all the problems with the joins and stuff like that that have to be done. And because we're pulling in a knowledge view, what really hurts the performance of a knowledge view is that I just don't want the form data. I mean, you think that that may be just what you want, and in most cases that might be what you want, but from the knowledge view creation perspective or the BP Logics perspective, I don't know what you want. Maybe you want just form data, but maybe you also want process data, and maybe you want data about the document attachments, and maybe you want them all in the same knowledge view, which means I can't just look at the form table whenever you create a knowledge view, even if that's the only data you're returning. I've still got to have all of the pieces in that SQL to go out and grab the process and the process instance and the process user and the process user instance, the form instance. All of that stuff has to exist as part of the query that gets built because I don't know what you're building. And so I've got to pull in, even if you don't ask for it, I've got to pull in a bunch of extraneous data so that it's available when you do, because remember, again, I don't know what you're going to be asking to do in a knowledge view, yet I have to be able to return to you everything that exists in Process Director. Knowledge views are inefficient. They're inefficient because they are so flexible and because you can pull anything back from them. But that flexibility imposes an unavoidable technical cost in terms of performance. When you go to a view, I don't have to worry about that. I know just the data that you want, and I can return just that form data that you want. Are you going to be able to pull process data and stuff like that out of it? Well, no, you're not. But generally, that's not what we're wanting. We're wanting form data. And if all I want is form data, and we'll just go ahead and select all of these fields again so that they're all included in the view because I haven't created it yet. If all you want is form data, then great, because I don't have to look at all of that stuff. And my SQL statement is, in Process Director terms, extraordinarily simple. Certainly far more than if you saw the very ugly SQL statement that gets created when you build the knowledge view. It's very long. This is very short, very sweet, and it gets you the data that you want and gets it to you faster than a knowledge view can. So if performance is your top concern, this is the way you want to go. You can construct as many views as you want on the form. So we have this view called the webinar form, and I'm just going to call it webinar. And this is, now I'm naming the view. This is the view that is going to get created whenever I hit the create view button. And right now, that name is right there, create view webinar form as, and then this is actually the SQL statement that's going to get run whenever the view is created. So we'll just call this webinar form underscore all. That's fine. And, you know, all fields on the form. All fields on the form. There we go. All fields on the form. A couple of other properties here. Use no lock on the SQL view generated. That prevents database locking on new records in the database. if you check that, it will um, return whatever is currently in the database right now, even if it's only partial form data because the form hasn't been completely filled out, hasn't been submitted yet. You can also include only forms that have been submitted. And again, forms that have been submitted may only have partial data. Generally, we keep these both checked anyway. We don't really care about data for forms that have not been submitted. And in many cases, we're going to get partial form data anyway, because the form is going to get filled out as it goes through the process. We don't want to impose that, or we don't want to impose locking on those tables. So generally, we just keep both of those checked. And so I'm going to, now that I've changed the name to webinar form underscore all, I'm going to hit regenerate view. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to rewrite that SQL statement so that it properly names my new view that will be created. And once I've done that, I can just click create view. And now that view has been created. If I look up here at the top, I've got webinar form all, and I'm a happy camper. I can also create multiple views for a form, as I was saying earlier. So let's say I don't need all of these fields. I just need a smaller view. And we just have webinar form underscore partial. And I'll put in only the first two fields. And I will regenerate my SQL there. And oh, I'm editing webinar form all. I don't want to do that. I want to go to create new SQL. Sorry, webinar form partial. And only the first two fields. And now I'll regenerate that webinar form partial. Now I will create view. If you don't see create view and you're trying to create a view, then you're in the wrong place. That's how I knew I was not in the right place. That's how I knew I was editing an existing SQL view and not creating a new SQL view. So create view, we'll click that. And now I have webinar form all and webinar form partial. And as I swap between these two, did I not? Oh, I didn't turn off these three fields in webinar form partial. So I need to regenerate my SQL. And now I see update view. Not create view. That's what told me I was in the wrong place. Now we're going to update webinar form partial to the new view. And now when we switch back and forth between these two, I see changes, and our description and our view name and stuff changes as we switch between these two views. I can delete a view simply by clicking the remove view. I think we'll go ahead and keep them here for the moment, just so that we have multiple views. Now, you've been able to do this for a long time, this view creation, but we have updated it to make it way more flexible. Prior to 5.44. something, you could create one SQL view at a time for a form. But now we can create multiple SQL views on the form. And there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. I don't know whether it was just something we never thought of or nobody had ever asked for. But now we can just use that. But wait, there's more. We can make it even faster if we want to, because again, we are doing a bunch of joins here, way less than a knowledge view, but still joins on these tables that we can kind of get rid of, because I'm still ultimately having to look into table form data to grab this data. And table form data is probably going to have over time millions of records in it. Sure, technically SQL Server is supposed to chop through millions of records pretty quick, but you're still chopping through millions of records. What if I didn't want to do that? What if I wanted to create a new SQL view and include all of my fields, but this time I wanted to use only the cache table for that SQL view. And I wanted to call this webinar form cached uses only cached data. And let's regenerate our view here. And it's hard to tell, but we have made some changes here, and we are pulling from a different table. In fact, there we go. There's our table that we're pulling from. So we have a much smaller pool of data. In fact, we want all of the data from that table in most cases. So we have a much smaller data pool to pull from. We don't have to chop through millions of records in table form data. We're just going to grab this data from the cache. Again, your cache has to exist. The data that we pull from the cache is only going to be as current as the last time your caching page ran. But it is going to be even faster if I create my webinar form cached view, which is only going to show me my cached data. So I can pull the real data, which is going to be probably significantly faster than a knowledge view, or I can pull the cache data, which should be even faster than the regular view that's pulling the live data. And that's the difference. I'm pulling cache data with this. With the webinar form I'm pulling live data. So I can make this thing operate even faster. Now, the nice thing is these views all now exist in my internal user database. So if I go back to my knowledge view, well, actually, I don't even want to go to my knowledge view. Let's go back to my, there's my internal user database. Let me hit OK. I don't think I've saved anything or done anything to the form, but let me just hit OK to be sure. Let's go to my internal user database. We'll look at our tables. Now, this is just the internal user database. And we are going to come all the way down here to the bottom, and there is webinar form all, webinar form partial, and webinar form cached. These are now SQL objects, which means they're now accessible via a regular SQL business value. So if I go back into my webinar folder and create new business value, and let's just say, well, we'll just call it cached view, and that's the view that we'll take since we have a cache at this point. Now we can go back to SQL data source. We can pick, well, any internal user database data source. So we'll just use my global one there. Test it, testing completed. And it's going to show me all of these tables, which we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And we'll just grab our cached table. And all we care about is the input. Now, these are the actual fields that get created in the view automatically when we create it. And it's probably going to be a little hard for you to see it. So let me go to my properties. Let me zoom to, okay, that should be enough. Let me zoom in a lot. These are all the fields that are created. Now, notice it had 5 input fields, input 1 through 5. And they all have a BP underscore as the prefix to all of those field names. I do have some other data that just automatically gets created in that view. I get to know who the create user is. I get to know the form instance ID of each set of records that gets returned. That's often necessary because I might need to have a link to the form instance ID, perhaps somewhere else. Great. I can build that because I know what the main URL is for a process director form. It never changes, but the form instance ID does because that's a URL parameter that tells process director what form to serve me. So I need that. The last person who updated it, the name of the object, the date that it was created, and the date that it was last updated. So you get all this extra special sauce in the view. You get that automatically. Technically, you could turn it off. If you wanted to go, excuse me, if you wanted to go into your SQL, you could actually find these fields and you could just delete them from your SQL. They wouldn't get created. What would get created is this information here, which, by the way, would make your getting rid of these fields. I think it's going to make it a little faster because I think it'll allow you to create some links. You're going to need to know SQL to get rid of these fields. I'll tell you that straight up. So if you don't know SQL, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a performance hit. Trust me, especially when we're looking at cache data. And really all I care about are these 5 fields. So what I would do, we're going to go back to normal size rather than 250. Sorry, I've got to be able to work on this thing. We'll go back into this field to write our SQL statement and we'll hit select, and I copied and pasted stuff. So I'm just going to need a comma space delete, comma space delete, comma space delete. Put it in the wrong place, but okay. Comma space delete. Okay, let me select BP input 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, comma 5, comma, great, from, and here's my table name, and I'm lazy, so I'm going to copy and paste that table name. And we won't worry about a parameter or anything right now. We're not here to learn about business values anyway. We're here to learn about how to do cool stuff with forms. So I can test this query. It is going to return 7 results. I'm not sure why they're empty. Hold on. The form instances exist. I still don't have data. Let's add the columns as properties for the moment so that I don't have to do that. This button is the best time saver we may have ever done. I don't have data. Huh. That's interesting. I do have 7 form instances, but I don't have data. I don't have anything in that cache table. Let's try something. Let's go back to a new tab. And let me grab my field or my data caching page, build form data cache. Let's hit enter. Okay, it says build form data cache complete. Okay, let's test my query again. Ooh, look at that. I now have data. The form instances exist, but the values that were in the form that are set up by the SQL, the sequence number, they didn't exist. So I had form instances. What I didn't have was data in the table cache. So I had to run build form cache ASPX again to get my data. So apparently I confused myself when I saw that I had 7 form instances being returned. I should have added some fields to that knowledge view so that I could have seen that the fields were empty. That's okay. The fields were empty. We just saw it, and the way that I fixed it was running my form data cache. So at the moment, my cache data is current, but it does indicate to you, or it should indicate to you, in the real world, I'm only going to see what was in my last data cache. And so basically, I had nothing in my last data cache because we created the cache, which gave me an empty table prior to creating the form instances. And once I created the form instances, they existed, but there was no data for each of those form instances in the cached table. So it grabbed the number of instances. It knew that, but it couldn't grab any data because that data had not yet been stored. Running it again, restored the data. Now I've got data in my knowledge view or my business value, and I can use this data now anywhere. I can parameterize it, whatever I need to do, I can do to grab the data that I want out of this form. So being able to use the SQL, the SQL data view or SQL data form data SQL view. Now I can't think of what the name of the tab is. It's the form data SQL view tab. It's it's interesting when you name something by putting four nouns together, but there's the tab. And so this gives me access to both live data. This gives me access to both live data and also cached data, depending on what it is that I want to do. I can create as many SQL views as I want. Each one of them can optionally look at live or cached data. The only thing that, if I'm looking at cached data, that I have to do, and it's just as true for a SQL view as it is for a knowledge view, if I'm looking at cached data, I've got to be able to prompt that cache recreation on a routine basis in my system. But if I have those two things working together, enable me to much more quickly query existing form data for use in other forms, which, as I said, happens more often. It kind of surprises me how often people want to grab data from one form and stick it into another form. It would also enable you, and I'm going to put this out there, but I'm not going to give you any specifics about it. This would also enable you to essentially create linked forms that can share data. Now, why you would do it this way instead of in a case management application is a question best addressed at another time. But the ability to grab data from one form instance and stick it into another form instance via a business value where I could cache it. I mean, it does technically, as long as I can like link an order number. Let's say I have an order number. So I can grab an order number off of a main form. And once I have that order number, I can have another form where I create all of the line items on an order form. You can basically create kind of a homebrewed master child form. I'm not going to tell you how I would implement that. That might be an interesting training webinar to talk about later in terms of being able to link forms. Plus, of course, you've also got the attach link control that you could use to attach forms. But there's some interesting things that you might be able to do where this is going to be super useful to you, being able to grab data from one form and transfer it to another form, especially if you have created some sort of unique request number that you can use as an ID. And inside a business value, you can parameterize that ID so that you can pass that ID back and forth. And I can see different forms. Conceivably, I could have a button on a form that says, show me all of my line items for this order number from another form, and it would just pop it open. Again, I'm not sure I would do it that way. I can think of sometimes when you might want to. I'm not sure why I would do that rather than just say, you know, what the heck, let's just make a case management thing out of this. Then I can have as many order forms for something as I want. And certainly case would be more flexible, but for a very directed application where I might just want a form and a homebrewed quasi subform, this gives me a lot of opportunities to do that by being able to pull that data back and forth. That's all I'm going to say about that. We just want to be able to grab data from other forms. We want to do it as efficiently and as quickly as possible without having our users see spinnies. So we have two options for doing that. Either through caching and using a cached knowledge view, faster than a normal knowledge view, still slow compared to going in to a form and grabbing the form SQL view. But you've got some options there to increase your own performance in how you handle form data. So that's form data from the back end, and that's kind of cool. But now let's talk about form data from the front end. I have talked about this precisely once in 10 years, but I am going to talk about it again. It's 11 o'clock. There is no possible way that I can build this in the time remaining. So we're just going to look at a completed product here. So if we go into workspaces, I'm about to lose my entire content list, but that's okay. I have a workspace called Webinar. And that workspace, once I turn off my content list, looks like this. I'm not happy with that size, so we'll make it bigger. That's how it's supposed to look, how it would look if the content list wasn't there when I open it up. So I've got some cool stuff here. I've got both IT and HR requests. In fact, I've got two active HR requests. Let's click the More Info button. Oh, there we go. Those are my two requests. By the way, these forms are exactly the same, so don't worry about these forms. That's not what we're trying to see. Okay, great. I have 6 active tasks, 2 of which are IT requests, 2 of which are HR requests, 2 of which are IT requests. Those are my IT requests right there. And I've got my task list here, so I don't really need a button here to open the task list, but I have a button there because reasons, and I'll explain to you later, where it opens up my task list. But largely, this is the same task list that's showing up here. It's just a little bigger. It's just showing up in a pop-up window. I've got a great click through form here, or chart here, so I can see my different types of requests just by clicking on it. I don't think I have this configured correctly because it's showing me all of my requests when I click both. Although it may just be laziness where I just said, yeah, just show me all 6 requests rather than creating different knowledge views for each request. Also, while I'm here, I can create a new HR request, which will open my HR request form that I can submit. And let's complete it. And notice now that I've completed it, it doesn't change what's in my task list. Although if I throw in a new IT request and submit it and I don't complete it, we'll just close without saving, it will, in the fullness of time, refresh my task list with the 7 items, but it's behind the scenes. Come on, refresh for me. I just made a new request. Oh, there it goes. It just refreshed. It refreshed when I clicked the button, and it refreshed the page, which recalled my my task list. So I need to have some I guess any of these buttons would work to do the refresh, because this won't automatically refresh. This is a workspace. What this workspace is showing me is a dashboard. And what is displayed in that dashboard is a process director form. Basically, I've created a dashboard from a process director form, and the form becomes my main UI for this sample application, whatever it is. I have 2 functions that I can perform. I can submit new requests, whether they're HR or IT, and I can see what my status is of completing all of these requests right here from dynamic objects that I've just built on a form. Keep in mind, this is a process director form that I've built just using normal process directory things. There's no programming in here. There's no special sauce. Well, technically there is some special sauce, but it's very simple special sauce that allows me to build a UI out of Process Director. So let's go back to my admin profile. And let me pin my content list again. And like I said, this is going to be pretty much impossible to build in an hour, although I think probably walking through it may take less than an hour, not sure. But let's take a look at our form itself. And this form is just named main UI. And we'll open it up and take a look at it. Let's get rid of the design console for the moment. What are the elements on this page? Basically, I have a show report control. So I have a couple of show report controls, and basically the reports that they show just return me numbers. So nothing big there. I've got a K-view control. This is the K-view control. It just displays my task list. You know, maybe I should, since I got the form open, maybe I should get rid of that content list and bring back the design console. That way we can look over on the right-hand side and we can see what I'm doing here. So I'm sorry, this show report, that is a separate control. These are all system variable controls. So I'm just pulling some business value properties out of some very simple business values. So I've got HR, IT, again, all of them, just pulling these business values. I've got buttons, normal button controls that exist on the form. The K-view control, and the K-view control just pulls my task list. So it just shows me what my task list is. My task list is, by the way, a custom task list, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Up here at the top, again, a couple of button controls. That's all they are, button controls. And then I've got a show report control, and that's what shows me my actual graph. And the report is the status chart report that it's showing. Well, the status chart graph is what it's showing. The only thing that's tricky here are these content pickers down at the bottom. Now, each one of these content pickers points to a different content list object, whether it's a knowledge view or a form. And the thing that makes all of this work and allows me to make it work with normal Process Director things is the way that I implement these buttons. Every button has an on-client click interface. And I'm going to copy this text that's in there. So it doesn't mean anything to you, probably. And it's also super hard to read. I'm going to paste it into Visual Studio Code so that we can see it a little bit better. And we'll talk about that in a second. On client click. Every button has an on client click property. Usually we don't care about it. Usually we never even look at it because we actually don't want things to happen on client click. For the most part, Process Director is database based. All of the important action happens on the server side, not in your browser on the client side. So we don't care about this client stuff. Mostly, in an instance like this, sometimes we do care about it because it allows us to do some cool things in our user interface. What the on-client click property does is it says, okay, forget doing anything on the server. We don't care about server stuff. We only want something to happen on the client. So we're going to pass a command in the client. That's going to happen on the front end, and it's not going to put any extra stuff in on what the server is supposed to be doing. And inside that on client click, we have a little command here. Now, this is built into Process Director. Part of the JavaScript, it's in the dev guide. It is called iPopUpSimple. The iPopUpSimple command really just takes one parameter, which is you're saying, I want to show a object in the browser. What's the URL of that object? And I have to pass it the URL. The URL largely is the same all the time, although if I'm opening a form, I'm going to open something different. In this case, I'm opening a knowledge view. I know it's opening a knowledge view because I can parse this URL in my head, because interface URL is the primary interface URL for Process Director, which in this case is going to be training.bplogix.net. / It always ends with a /. That's important. kv.aspx always opens up to display a knowledge view. What knowledge view is it going to display? Well, I've got to pass the ID of the knowledge view back to it. Here's where it gets interesting. It's looking for a form field that is apparently called ActiveHR, and it is set with a format to return the ID of an object. So if we go back and look at our form, and we go down here at the bottom, I have all of these content pickers on the form. So here's one called HR form. Here's one called IT form. Here's one called ActiveHR. Let's take a look at that. Let's go to its field properties. It is returning a content item called ActiveHR. And if we pop open the button and look for that, that is a knowledge view. So it is returning a knowledge view. And this is a hidden field. Note that the field is hidden over here on the right. So end users never see it. So what I'm using this content picker for and setting a default value for is just to say, okay, I need the object ID for this object. And in our little JavaScript command here for iPopUpSimple, I'm calling that ActiveHR field via a system variable, and I'm throwing in the ID formatter to ensure that it returns the GUID for the ActiveHR knowledge view. So this, of course, just gets parsed into whatever that GUID is, and this system variable gets parsed into training.bplogix.net, and now I have a complete, fully qualified URL that gets passed into iPopUpSimple. Now, in this case, it's calling kv.aspx. If we go to the new HR request and we look at its button properties, iPopUpSimple, we'll copy and paste it again. Now it's looking at form.aspx with form ID equals whatever the form ID is. Again, I've got a control on the bottom of the form called HR form. And I'm pulling it back just the GUID for the HR form. So it has the form GUID, so it knows what form to open up using form.aspx. This is not hidden, by the way. If you open up the bplogix documentation, it is in the developers doc. Don't know exactly where it is. However, I can copy and paste iPopUpSimple. I don't remember whether iPopUpSimple is the only one that we expose. Yeah, it is iPopUpSimple. Okay, great. So it's iPopUpSimple. It's a JavaScript command. Again, let's get rid of the ugly green highlighting here. It's a JavaScript command that basically just takes a URL as a parameter, and it will open that URL. So we use it a lot. For example, you've seen what I've showed you just now. This is what PubPro, which is an application we built for medical companies, pharmaceutical companies, device companies to review and approve publications. It's called PubPro. This is what its UI looks like. And this is basically the UI that I have replicated in this particular example that I have on my system. And it kind of walks you through sort of the things that you need. I'm going to walk you through it in a little bit more detail. Because obviously a whole bunch of objects have to exist to make all of this work and to display all of the things that we're trying to display on this particular form. So we'll just take a look through it real quick. I wanted to pin my content list again. Thank you. And scroll down to our advanced UI. So obviously I have several forms. I've got two forms. I've got my HR form and my IT form and the timelines that are associated with them. So I've got separate properties. Now, as it happens, they just exist in a subfolder of this particular example. In the real world, who knows how many of these buttons you need? Who knows how many of these processes you would want to run from the UI? That's entirely up to you. The nice thing about this is that it's flexible because you create it and you determine what gets opened from what button, where that button goes, and all that other good stuff. So I only have two projects. We don't really care much about them because they don't do anything. It's a form with no form fields and a timeline that has a single user activity whose sole purpose is so that I can see that the timeline is running and to have running timelines and completed timelines. That's all it's designed to do. I do need a bunch of K-views and knowledge views in the background though. So when we look at the form, and perhaps I probably shouldn't do it this way. I'm just going to go ahead and run it. Well, I hit OK instead of update and run. Let's try that again. Wrong form. Let's run that form. That's the form we wanted to run. And by the way, it is a form. Notice I can run it. It literally works right like a form, right from my content list. Look, I can submit subforms from this particular form, technically, or at least additional forms from that form by adding new HR request or new IT request. It is a form. That's all it is. And yet it has all this cool stuff that's going on. And also because it's a form, I mean, it's technically, what do you call it? Responsive, because it shows up as a form. That's kind of cool. So if I'm looking at it on a phone, I get a very phone-like interface so that I can see all of the objects. You know, I've got long titles and stuff. Everything is, jammed together, but it all works like a normal form. So that's great. And I have a couple of things that have to work. A, I've got to get these numbers back. So I've got to get my active HR requests numbers back, got to get my active IT requests, and of course I have to get my number of active tasks back. So I need at least 3 knowledge views to make this section of the form, this far left section, and the center section where it shows my task list. I've got to have a task list. So I've got to make those work. So in the K-views folder, I have my active HR's knowledge view, which only returns form instances of the HR form. That's all they pull back. I don't even think I have anything special in the columns. I've got the name, the submitter, and the form submit date. I don't think I need the form submit date. I don't even think I need the form submit user except for the knowledge view. This is sort of the minimal amount of stuff. And I don't think, now that I've finished it, I don't think I actually need the form submit date. I may have been planning on doing something else and just never got around to it for lack of time. But I have the name of the object or the name of the form instance and the submitter. And I don't even really care about this data so much, except to go so far as to know who the form submit user is, so that I just show my items in those little boxes on the left-hand side. Similarly, the active IT is just IT request. It's literally a copy that I just renamed and changed the form to look at the IT form. Now, the other thing that I did have to do is create a task list. So if we go into the options tab, was it the options tab or was it the configure tab? Yeah, it's the configure tab. What I did is I made a content list knowledge view. So it's not a task list technically, because I wanted all of the full knowledge view features, not just the task list knowledge view features. So I set it as a content list, but I did check when a form instance is opened, treat it like it was open from a task list. So this can show me all of my tasks. However, a normal content list knowledge view will not open the form in task context. So checking this does open the form. If I have a task assigned to me, it opens it up in task context, which is what I want to do for this particular form or this particular knowledge view. And here again, the thing that's important to me is I need the object name of this object. So I'm using the object name system variable, and I'm actually just pulling the first two characters out of the object name so that I can, and I think the name is like HR and IT. So I think I'm just pulling HR and IT for the type out of the name, because if we update and run the request, the name is HR form, IT form, IT form. And so on my knowledge view itself, I am only pulling those first two characters, HR and IT. I'm doing that for a reason. I don't even care to show them in this knowledge view. By the way, notice they only show up if I'm running a report or a chart, because a chart counts as a report. So they only show up if I'm running a report. So normally it would show me it would show me this column in a knowledge view, but I've got it hidden in the knowledge view. All I really care about is the name, the author, and when it was last updated. That's all I care about in my task list. And I suppose I could add some other things in here, like the running activity or whatever, but there's only one activity, so who cares? But this type that we do need, we'll take a look at that in a second. So those are the three knowledge views that I need. So I've got my HR form and my IT form. I know I'm going to need buttons for that. And I've got my running HR tasks, my active IT tasks, and then of course my task list. And my task list should be a sum of the active HR tasks and active IT tasks that I have associated with my account. Well, with me as a user, basically. Again, I only want to find active things. So all of these knowledge views have the active filter on them. And that way I know that no matter what knowledge view I'm looking at, I have an active filter. In addition to those knowledge views, I now have some data sources. And they're very simple data sources, business values. They're very simple business values. This is, I need to get back the number of HR requests that are active, IT requests that are active, and of course, my total number of active requests. So I'm just going to build really simple business values. I'm not even going to return any data from the forms itself. Instead, I just want a return of the number of knowledge view rows, and I'm going to stick those into a property called count. And that count property is what I'm going to use to display in a system variable control on a form to get the number of actively running requests that I have to deal with whenever that form displays. And that's what's showing up right here in these big numbers. Those are just business value system variables that I've just dropped onto the form and then I formatted so that the text is a little bit larger. And that information will show up in the appropriate spot on the form when I build them. So I need those 6 things. I need the 3 knowledge views. I need the 3 business values. Now, the way that this form, well, let's take a look at my status chart. Sorry. Let's go look at my status chart and let's look at the chart data source. The reason why we're using a content list knowledge view and not a task list is because I'm using it in other places, to wit, this specific chart. And I'm using that my task list. Now, remember, we had that field called type that we only wanted to show in a report. So name, author, last updated, that shows up in our knowledge view. Type is only showing up here. And the reason that it's only showing up here is because I need to run a chart off of it. This is where my little pie chart is run from that knowledge view. So that knowledge view does double duty for me. A, it serves as a task list because I checked the open my tasks as if it were from a task list. And also because I'm only showing actively running forms. So it's obviously only showing my tasks because it's only showing the active ones. If I've already done them, it just doesn't show them. And then, of course, it has its type field, which is what I'm using here secondarily as the data source for this chart so that I can run this chart and it shows me my big value. And if we look over on the side, I know it's hard to see because it's very small, but the legend on the side says HR and IT. And the reason that it says HR and IT is because of the way that I've named the forms. The first 2 characters of the each form request are always HR or IT. So that's why I was using that system variable on the object name just to pull a substring that started at position 0 and took the first 2 characters, HR or IT. And that allows me to build my chart. Once I have those elements, then building the UI itself is relatively simple. I guess we're gonna have to turn our content list off here. Sorry. Webinar workspace sample. That is not the main UI form. That was one I think that I built. Let's go back to main UI. Sorry. And let's look at that in design view so we can actually see it as it is all put together. So if we look at our HR, which is one of our dynamic elements, again, it's a business value and it uses the active HR business value. And that business value, as we've seen, has a single property count, which returns the number of records. And I've done that for every one of these. By the way, the colors and whatnot, these are just tables, right? So all I have to do is right click on cell and go to cell properties. And there's my background color. It's that light gray. I think it's actually FFFFFF in hexadecimal. But there's that. These are 2 table cells. So this top table cell, this background color will be the BP Logix light blue color. When we go to cell properties, I really hate that it switches hexadecimal to RBG, or RGB, but it does. But basically, that's D0DFED. And then right down there, the cell below it, again, it's just a little table. So it's a nested table inside this outer table cell. And this particular cell has a dark blue background. I don't need to keep showing you cell properties. It has a dark blue background. And basically, I just have these little tables that I've just dropped in as nested tables inside this outer table cell. That's just an image control. That's just text. These are just regular button controls. But for all of my button controls, which I have 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, just 5. All 5 of those buttons have 5 content pickers. And all of these content pickers do is enable me to select the object that I want to open when one of these buttons is clicked. And all of these object pickers, as I said earlier, just happen to be pointed using the default value to a specific content item. And the reason I'm using the default value is I want these content pickers to be filled every time the form opens. So every time a form instance opens, I want them to be filled. What is happening in the background, by the way, anytime someone views the webinar form, is that a form instance is being displayed, and it is a brand new form instance. Now, that does leave me with a little bit of a problem because I don't want this to be a submittable form. Oh, by the way, before I finish, that's an image control, picture control, and I'm just using the picture that I have installed in Process Director for this user account. And this is just a system variable control to pull my current username back. So just normal stuff. The show report, as I said before, that's just pointing towards a chart. So it's basically just using the show report control to specify the chart to display on the form. But to get back to what I was just saying, this is the important bit here because it is a form. And every time I open it, every time I go to Workspaces, and I click on webinar, what I'm really doing is I'm opening a brand new form instance of this form. Technically, I could submit it, but I really don't want to do that. So what I've done is I've dropped a button area control on this form. And I haven't done any completion, but I thought these were turned off. Hold on. Field properties. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I was thinking initially that for the OK button and the cancel button, I had turned these checkboxes off. That is not what I did. I went into the field properties button and I made this entire button area control hidden, so I can't see it. If I can't see the submit button or the cancel button, I can't click them. And so they never show up on the form. So if we look at the form, there's no cancel or there's no buttons on it because I've hidden those controls. But this is technically a new form instance. And if I go to Workspaces and go to webinar, it's going to create a new form instance. The only thing is I can't submit it. And once I close this page, that new form instance simply goes away unsubmitted, and it just dies a natural death because I haven't submitted it. Now, to make the workspace work with the form, I got to do a couple of things for that workspace. So inside my project, I have a dashboard object called main. And that dashboard object only does one thing. It shows me a form widget. And the form it shows me is obviously the main UI form. So every time this dashboard displays, again, as I just said, we can run the dashboard all by itself. And it is going to display a huge copy of this form, but it is going to display that form in the dashboard. So even though you can't really tell visually what we're looking at here, we're looking at a dashboard. The dashboard happens to be displaying a form. And if we want, we can just go back up here to UI elements and run. Okay, see, now I'm looking at the form. Here, I'm not looking at the form. I'm looking at the dashboard. Do you see the difference? No, you don't. It's all still showing the form, but in one case, it's showing the form encapsulated in a dashboard. Now, why am I showing the form encapsulated in a dashboard in this way? Why have a dashboard that only shows me the form? It's largely a function of how I want the workspace to work and what I want to show in the workspace. So now we have to go into configuration, and we have to look at the webinar workspace and how it is configured, because I have some top navigation buttons, which we don't particularly care about. What we do care about is what I'm showing in the homepage windows. And what I really want to show in the homepage window for this is the partition dashboard, which I have selected as the main dashboard here. This is the most reliable way of getting that form to show by setting it as the one object on the home page that we see. So it's going to display the dashboard. The dashboard automatically displays the form, and we get to see everything that we need to see. All of our clickies and what have you, our knowledge views all work. And we're just using a form as the main UI. I know a lot of times you spend a lot of time thinking about, how do I want my workspace to look? And why do I have these constraints down here at the bottom of just 1 through 4 panels on my workspace? I want it to be different. You can have whatever kind of UI that you want. You can build any kind of UI that you want, and you can use a plain old process director form to build it. It's entirely up to you. All of the tools for you are there. The only thing that is kind of non-obvious in terms of how this works is calling the iPop-up simple. And that requires that for every button, you use the on-client click property to pull this iPop-up, to call this iPop-up simple JavaScript command. And it's not, I mean, it is a JavaScript command, but you're actually going back into Process Director and passing a command to open an object in Process Director in a new window. If you're not logged in, this won't work, by the way. You have to be logged in for it to work, but then presumably you'd have to be logged in to even see the dashboard of the workspace in the first place. So that shouldn't be a problem. And this iPop-up simple just enables us to call those things off of the on-client click. Other than that, everything is pretty straightforward. It's just normal Process Director stuff that you would use on a normal form. You are just putting the form to use in a novel way. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure speaking with you as always. I'll look forward to talking to you again next week. Until then, so long.